Hello, and welcome to the Small Print Podcast with your host, Elise. I blog at roulettereader.wordpress.com.
And I'm Dawn, and I blog at bangbangbookblog.com.
And today we are bringing you our review of Song of the Current by Sarah Tolcser. It's a YA debut, fantasy, pirates, got a little bit of everything. I'm going to let Dawn give you the full description.
But first, if you would like to win a copy of the ARC, you'll have to listen until the end of the spoiler-free edition to find out how you can win our gently used copy of Song of the Current. So, Song of the Current is about Carol and her father, she is a first mate of her father's ship. He's the captain, and her father is arrested, and so in order to get him out of prison, she has to transfer some cargo that she shouldn't be knowing what's in the cargo to another city. And that's basically what
That's how the story gets us going.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so again, listen to the end of our spoiler-free edition, which we always do first, to find out how to win a copy of the ARC. Let's get to it.
Right.
Likes or dislikes first?
We usually do dislikes first.
We do.
We've been switching it up.
We have been. Let's keep it interesting. Let's do likes today.
Keep it interesting. Okay.
All right. Right off the bat, what pulled me into this book was the world building. We got to talk about that.
Okay.
I sometimes have trouble seeing the world clearly for a new fantasy novel. I did not have that problem. I saw everything so clearly. Well, that's because
they were on a river. Like, there's nothing much to see but water.
I totally disagree.
Okay.
That could be a really boring world.
True.
Like, there was a book that we read earlier this year where they're underground. That was boring. She did not make that world come alive, but in this book, I loved that. Like, I could feel, like, I don't know. Just read the book. But yeah, the world building was great, and I loved the political intrigue that was going on, which is all part of the world building. And I also liked the magical system. It seemed to make sense to me. It wasn't confusing. I wasn't like, wait a minute, what? Yeah, I'll stop there.
Yeah, I like the magic part of it. So this is a fantasy novel, and it does have frog people, and there are shadow men, which kind of infiltrate your dreams, and then there are water gods, but the setting is, I was asking Elise what setting she thought it was.
Which don't even say this. Like, I was going back, I'm like, what the heck, Renaissance? No. I think it's way later.
Okay.
But I don't know, where did you pick that up from? Because I wasn't even putting it with a real time period. What made you kind of think about that?
Well, the Bollards, where they lived, and the way their house looked, and the dress that she wore, they wore, like, corsets, and so I was trying to figure out what era this could possibly fit in, because she put magic in this world, but it could have stood without magic. I mean, at the same time, I thought the way she put the magic in there was quite interesting. I don't know. Let's just keep going.
Well, no, it was an interesting thought. I didn't think to draw any comparisons between, like, a real time period, so that was interesting to me. But yeah, I'm not sure why I initially said Renaissance. It was just a feeling I got. Like, This book is very, I don't know, it was very emotive. Like, that's what I meant with I could see things so clearly. Like, yeah, we're on a river, okay. But, like, I can feel the, like, mist in my face. And, like, remember that scene when everything gets foggy? That was really, like, I felt claustrophobic. It was just done very well. Her writing is very showy and not telly,
okay,
which I liked. But we can cover that later when we talk about writing.
I like the pacing. I thought that Sarah, the author, she dumps you right into the story. She doesn't set up anything. When you meet Carol and her father, they've landed at this seaside town, and the other ships have been burnt to the ground, and so you find out why pretty quickly, and then her father is imprisoned rather quickly, and so most of the book is Carol on her own. And I didn't feel like there were any boring bits. I mean, she is on a river, and it's a sailboat, right?
I'm not really sure exactly what a wherry is. Okay. I couldn't really
Well, it's a slow boat.
Yeah, it's not meant for anything other than transporting cargo. Yeah. Like, that's what they do. So the fact that she can maneuver this boat to escape this pirate that's basically after her is pretty.
Mm-hmm.
It speaks to her skill.
Yeah. So even though they're on a river for days and days and days, the author takes her time to build characters and the world. But
she does keep it interesting.
Yeah.
Like there's, they have to like hide in the trees, and it was very suspenseful. I felt like, oh my god, they're gonna get caught. But speaking of like boats and ships and all that stuff, I liked that she didn't drown the reader in jargon, literally, like.
Well, I would have to disagree.
Oh my gosh. I thought she did a great job of, like, not really making it so that you absolutely need to know what every bit of this stuff means. But she gave you enough context clues to be like, okay, this is clearly discussing something with the mast, so it's going to affect how the wind, moves their boat. She gave you just enough information where it wasn't like, this isn't a boating book. This is a novel. But you weren't lost. I never at any point felt lost, but I have read reviews and Goodreads where people were like, it was too much.
Well, I didn't feel lost, but that's because I ignored all of that. I'm like, it's not important to the plot. I don't know what she's talking about. I don't know what's the front of it. I have never been on a sailboat. I've never seen a sailboat. So I know nothing about boats, and I was like, I don't know what any of this means, so I just kind of ignored it and just like...
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not a sailor or a boater, so I didn't know any of that either, but I don't know, it was something that's, I wish I could pull the page out, but like, when she's talking to Fee in the beginning, there was an interaction that they had where I was like, okay, I understand what that means now, and then I was kind of able to just not focus on it too much, because you really don't, like, if you don't remember what this part means, you're not gonna, like, lose the story, which is good.
Yeah.
I mean, again, she doesn't drown her book in it. But I thought that was good for, again, sometimes with debut authors, it's like, I must prove that I researched my book, and you're like, calm down. I didn't feel like that with this.
I didn't think it was predictable, which was...
I agree.
You go into reading a fantasy, and let me tell you, debut fantasies can be real stinkers. And so, anytime I read a debut fantasy, I have very low expectations. But I don't know what, at one point, I realized, oh, this is not going to be, like, what I'm used to reading. Because she has to ship this cargo, and she doesn't know what's in it, and the guy tells her, don't open it. Do not open it. And she does, on, like...
the very next chapter.
The first third of the book.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, because in normal books, you would have to wait until they get to their destination to find out what's in the box.
I like that she didn't hang that over the reader's head. That was really great.
That's what I was expecting. I was like, oh, geez, here we go. I gotta wait for 500 pages.
I was so shocked when she and Fee were prying the top off. I'm like, oh, this is happening.
Yeah.
And I agree. Not everything, but a lot of the things in this book that I was expecting to go one direction went the opposite. And I loved that. I was constantly like, I have no idea what's going to happen now.
Once she opened that box, I was like, we have no idea what's going to happen now. Anything can happen, which is great.
Yeah. And then he wants her to take him somewhere else. And we could talk about that in the spoiler edition, I suppose. So, what was I going to say after that? I liked Caro. I will say that she, again, is unexpected. I liked that she's flawed. She's kind of hot-headed. She's a little bit confused. I think, we're teen librarians, so I can definitely see teens appreciating her character because she knows that she has a path set before her, but she's not really sure necessarily how to get there, and I think that's very relatable. She thinks it's going to look this one way, but as the book progresses, she realizes, like, I think I need to reevaluate my expectations about my life and my destiny. And I like that she was flawed, but the author does not demonstrate that flaw by making her a character that waffles.
Well, she doesn't waffle, and this is one of the things that bothered me about her is that she's I call her adequately insecure. Like, she knows that, because she's never been the captain of a ship. She's always been the first mate. And so she's very insecure about having to captain this ship. And her father, like, her whole family can speak to the river god. And it's not happening for her. And she does keep reminding us many times.
That's true.
And that really started to bother me. Not so much to lower my rating, but it was beginning to get, like, okay, I get it. He's not talking to you.
That's true.
But... she she was able to put herself in situations. She didn't, you know, like you say, waffle. Should I go this route and, you know, possibly die?
Right.
She just did it.
Yeah.
Which was, and then like felt bad about it later, insecure about it a little bit later.
But I'd rather read about that kind of character than about, you know, we just finished this book where the main character was like never made any decisions because she couldn't, you know, come up with the perfect scenario. When does life ever just offer that up on a plate? So I love your phrase, adequately insecure. That's perfect. Very accurate for this character.
Yeah.
I liked that a lot. So.
She, one thing else about, what's her name? Carol. Is that she is black. She's biracial. Her mom's black and her dad is white. And I think some authors kind of, they get scared if they are not of that race to write a minority because of the fear of it being insensitive or whatever. But in this book, her race is not mentioned. She's just a person. She's not a race. So I think that's a way for authors who are not a minority and who are writing about minorities to kind of escape the whole insensitivity thing, is to just make a world that has nothing to do with race. There's no race relations or anything. And so, and her family was black, and you got to see a wealthy black family, and so I thought that was great. I was not expecting her to be black at all. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Let's talk about Tarek.
Tarkin?
Who Tarek is.
This is a character that I had a hard time warming up to.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I told you. I
loved him.
I did not like the romance. I found their banter to be a little bit too much at certain points. And I don't know. It wasn't until the end, like towards the last bit, that I kind of started to feel differently.
I liked him. I liked he was snarky. And for some reason, I was reading him with a British accent. I don't know why. Maybe because he was... Never mind.
Spoilers!
But I liked their back and forth. You could kind of feel the sexual tension a little bit.
I did not. And I was looking for it. Like, I'm like, okay... I'm much more open to romance in a fantasy setting. I don't like reading a contemporary romance. It's just personal preference. So I was like, okay, you know, I can see this happening. Like, they're gonna be stuck on a ship. This is gonna be very a la Pirates of the Caribbean. I'm into that. And I never felt it again, which I will reserve the rest of my comments for the spoiler edition. But what really bothered me is that he kind of just seems stupid. Like, for example, the scene when he just randomly decides to kiss her. Like, we haven't said some things that I don't know, never mind. I was going to almost ruin a spoiler for some people, but we just meet him. And I want to say, like, 2 chapters in, Caro does something that in no way communicated, like, hey, buddy, kiss me.
But I think he
she's like,
himself.
Are you serious?
I think he explained himself.
I just still thought it was freaking stupid.
Well, I thought it was funny.
Oh my god. I was like, are you kidding me, dude? No. I don't know. I didn't feel it. Eventually I felt it, but I didn't
I'm
at
the exact
first.
opposite. I was feeling it in the beginning, and the end I was like, I don't like it. And I'll explain why in the spoiler edition.
I was like, these are 2 kids who are both immature in certain ways, and their immaturity is calling out the other person's immaturity. And I'm not sure if that was intentional. It might have been, because again, he's in a very similar position as Caro. You know, he's got some destiny choices to make.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say. But I don't know, didn't feel it at first. So that almost slowed the book down for me.
Yeah, that was a big part of the book.
Right. And then I kept telling you, I was like, oh, I like it, but there's this one aspect. So I felt that she fixed that by the end of the book, so we can talk about that.
I felt she ruined it. Okay.
What else?
That's all I have for likes.
Yeah. I guess we can talk about the secondary characters. We did a little bit with her family, but I liked that the secondary characters were just as interesting as the main characters.
Were they?
I thought so. I thought Nereus was hilarious. Even the pig dude that she meets along the river. I liked the Ballard family. The brief moment that we get with her family. Her cousin was very interesting to read. I really liked the story a lot better once they introduced Kente to the plot.
Okay.
I liked, like, when they went to the house, I was like, ooh, some girly... Because, you know, Fee can only say a couple words at a time. So I thought that I was going to get really sick and tired of hearing Caro's thoughts all the time, or Tarkin's sass, because it was just the two of them traveling along the river with Fee. And so the Bollards kind of broke that up for you a little bit, and I liked that. Like, we get, you know, the female cousinly banter, and they're drinking, and, you know, they're talking about some things that girls talk about, and I like that. And who else? Yeah, Nereus. I'm intrigued about him. I'm interested. Yeah.
Yeah.
You clearly did not feel the same way.
I mean, they were okay. I wouldn't necessarily... I do think that it broke up just the two of them. I do agree. And for their purpose, I thought it was fine. I don't necessarily think they were special. I did like the cousins. I would have actually liked the more of the three of them in that setting. I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah.
But, I mean, none of them really stood out.
Okay. And then the last thing I can't really talk about until we move to spoilers. So,
right.
Dislikes? Don't have a whole lot.
No.
I will go back to Caro for a second. I didn't like that she kept missing certain signs about her destiny that are pretty obvious to the reader.
I think it was her insecurity. I think she just...
It seemed to me like she was just outright refusing to freaking see the signs. I was like, everybody's telling you to look and you're just not. It's one thing if she's looking and like, I really don't see this, guys. But she was like, no.
I think
that's
maybe,
not it. I was like, girl, come on.
I kind of read it as she didn't want to get her hopes up, so she just kind of was living in denial. Until it was like right in her face.
Literally.
Yeah. And then she's like, oh, okay. Until that moment, she wasn't gonna
We definitely needed that right in your face moment. And I'm glad that we and she got that. But like time and time again, she's like, no, that's not it. I'm like, oh my God, girl. And again, I kept expecting that to turn out differently. Like, she keeps hearing the seagulls and she keeps hearing the mosquitoes or like the bugs, and I'm like, maybe that's what you should be paying attention to, and that's not at all. It ended up being something very different. So it kind of bothered me, but not enough to, like, again, drop my rating.
I felt, and I can't really go into it because it's a spoiler, I felt there was a character that was kind of dropped into the story, and it immediately took me out of the book, and it bothered me a lot. Once again, this might be enough to drop my rating a little bit, because I was at like a 4.25. I didn't think it was going to be more than a 4.5. I was like, and then it dropped that quarter point for me. So it did affect it. And then I also felt that Carol had some issues as far as the way she was written, and it might be more of a spoiler if I say, I just felt like she's supposed to be this very strong character, but everybody was always saving her. She never really saved anybody else, and maybe she will save other people in book 2, and maybe this just wasn't her time, but it bothered me once again enough to make my rating, because it was at a 4.25, and I'm reading it like 80 pages, 50 pages. I was like, if she does not save anybody at some point, I can't give it higher than a 4, and she never did.
Yeah, she definitely needed a lot of help. For some reason, it didn't bother me enough to really latch onto that as a fact until you pointed it out to me. But yeah, we'll have to talk about that in the spoiler edition. She does things that allow other people to help save other people in the book, but you're right in that she herself is not actually responsible for
getting
any particular, So, put a pin in that thought.
Yep.
That's a good topic to discuss. My really only other dislike was that I didn't feel like the villain was extremely developed. I kind of wanted a little bit more from the villain. When we finally meet that person and get to know kind of like their business, I was like, this isn't...
Yeah, that's a good point.
And then they're not even the actual villain, though. because there's a much larger like plot that's happening above all of this that he's working for.
Mm-hmm.
Again, won't go into too much detail because it is slightly spoilery. But I love a good villain. Like, I really like... Again, you know, we always bring up Ember in the Ashes. The villain in that book is still to this day one of my favorites. I have not read one that was as strong or compelling or had such a backstory or development as that. The Commandant in Ember in the Ashes. And I kind of judge everything by that because that's the potential that you can reach as a debut author. So I kind of wanted a little bit more from the villains in this book.
I agree.
We'll see about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, when they, you know, there's this portion in the end when the main characters are kind of up against the villain, you sort of get the sense that the villains are just like bumbling idiots. And I was like, what? Don't do that. Yeah. So.
All right. So that is the end of our spoiler-free edition. Our next podcast hopefully will be next week if Elise can finish the book. She's having some fun reading it.
Yeah.
Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue. If you would like to win a free copy, like I said, a gently
used
copy of Song of the Currents, you can look in our description box and follow our blogs. All right. So we will start our spoiler edition in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Bam. What do I want to go back to talk about?
Romance?
Yeah, let's do that. Well, first we have to talk about who Tarkin is.
Okay, Tarkin is...
Well,
I don't know how to say that word.
Caro is, as we said, she's responsible for transporting this cargo from one place to another, and she's not supposed to know what it is. Well, because she's Caro, she pops that box open. And inside is a person about her same age, and his name, he introduces himself as Tarkin. And we get the sense pretty immediately that that's not who he is. He claims that he's the son of a consul to the Emparch of Achaia. So there's some names we gotta throw out here.
Oh, God.
And there's political unrest, and he reveals to Caro that shit's going down because the person has just been murdered. So the Emparch's been murdered, and Tarkin is responsible for getting this information to the right people. But as the story goes on, and the two of them begin to fall in love and get closer together, we realize that he is in fact the son of the Emparch who was just murdered. So he is next in line to the throne, so he has escaped, been put in this box by a shadow man who basically puts him to sleep, and he only wakes up when the box is opened. So this is who his true identity is, and it's like, what?
And I guessed it. I was like... No, I think he's the next in line because he's pretty important, but it didn't lower the rating or anything.
No, not at all.
It wasn't like predictable or anything.
I definitely expected him to be royalty. I never really try to guess, as I always say. I never really try to guess. But he hesitates, so you obviously know he is lying, and then just his manners are just too formal and too I guess just fluffy to be anybody else. So, I don't know. But then again, like I said, the things that he does sometimes are just stupid and not thought out.
He was doing it on purpose. He was pretending that he was an idiot. And she caught on that he was more than he was because...
Well, he did a damn good job because I was even like, he is stupid.
When she saw that he was muscular, she was like, oh, no, something's not right with this
And I noticed
guy.
that he did have stuff on his hands that was like, he didn't have the perfect, royal hands that I guess she assumes royalty would have. So yeah, that's I think what threw me off. I was like, royalty wouldn't have any. They wouldn't have muscles. They wouldn't have this and that. So yeah. But it was a little bit of a back and forth about who he could have been, in my mind. For some reason the romance just didn't fly for me. Until the end, again.
And I'm the exact opposite. I thought it was going to be... I liked the banter between them. I liked the heat. And I thought it was going to be a slow burn. And by slow burn, I mean like Winter's Curse slow burn and they don't even do anything to the last book. Or Six of Crows. And it wasn't. And that's when I was disappointed. I was like, oh man, right at the end. I was like, no. I'd rather it be like flirting and...
I will admit I was not expecting them to do the business.
No.
Um,
I thought it would have been more of a, I am the emperor, you want to be a sailor, we can never be. So it's kind of a love from afar type of thing.
mm-hmm.
I didn't think that they would end up being like her mother and father that just bang when they see each other. And
That's
that seems
true.
like what it's going to end up being.
Yeah, they kind of came to a decision, I guess. Yeah, I liked the emotional arc of their relationship towards the end of the novel. So I didn't understand why they were falling in love with each other because there really was no history there. There was nothing that was making me like Tarkin, Marcos, whatever. I could understand his attraction to her because I liked Caro, but I didn't understand it back. And then when we have that kind of final battle at the end and she has basically realized her destiny, she is much more confident, I think, and he obviously is too because he has more information than he did in the beginning of the novel. And then it just made sense to me, the emotions of them coming together, not like sexually or anything, just like let's be in a relationship or let's admit that we like each other. But yeah, the whole let's do it in the boat was a little out of left field for me. I wasn't expecting them to actually take it there.
Yeah.
But we'll see what book 2 has to hold. I don't know, maybe she's going to do something more with the romance in that book and that, like, it's not going to work out how they planned because I don't see that working.
No.
Right.
He lives in a totally different place and she's on a boat and
yeah.
he has to, you know, be married. He's not going to be single. And
she kind of foreshadows that a little bit. Remember, they have that brief miscommunication. At the end, he says something about how he wants her to serve him. He doesn't use those words, but at first she takes it that he wants her to literally be an employee, if you will, of his country.
Mm-hmm.
And she, like, had a mini panic attack. She's like, oh my god, no, he is not asking me of this right now. I think it's going to get to that point. I think that was a foreshadowing moment. I'm calling it.
But you don't like to predict stuff.
It's happening.
Yeah, it was a little sexy at the end. But I was like, oh, maybe if it happened to book 2, I would have been like, woohoo. But I mean,
I do agree. Yeah, I do agree.
Yeah. And another thing about that is, like, this book was like totally PG until the last 50 pages, and she's talking about how big his junk is, and I'm like, what? Okay, this totally took a turn that I wasn't expecting. Sure.
I mean, yeah, I liked the heat at the end. I did, but that was more of like a guilty pleasure kind of thing, and like critically, I would have liked this romance to have that happen in a later part of the story.
Yeah, most definitely.
Did I enjoy it? Yes.
Well, how do you feel?
But the romance really didn't. I mean, I don't know if it should click that late. Because, like, a slow burn, you feel it right away, but the characters try to reject that. And you're kind of like, yes, I feel that. But they just almost, it was, no. Yeah, the romance was the only thing that I don't think was well fleshed out.
I'm trying to figure out why she would like him. She seemed to find him attractive immediately, and then he kind of opened his mouth, and it kind of ruined it a little bit for her. But
he's offensive. Like, he says things that are offensive and, like, assumes that she's a certain type of female.
But I think at that moment is when she did start to like him, because when she smacks him and he, like, apologizes and he means it, and he said, oh, I'm really sorry. I think at that moment she's like, okay, well, he's not this spoiled. Well, she doesn't know he's royal at this point, but he's not this spoiled, like,
vain person.
That she thought him to be. Mm-hmm. So I think at that moment is when she actually started to turn.
Yeah, there were a lot of little moments that she drops in the plot of them having to rearrange their expectations of each other and their first impressions, I guess, and I liked that. I don't know why I didn't feel it. Yeah, just whatever.
All right.
Yeah. Moving on.
I did not understand the point of her dreams. Like, her dreams were coming true, and I don't understand, did that come, because she wasn't on the ocean when that happened. She was still in the river.
No, but there was a part where the seagulls did speak, like, to her at the end.
But what do the dreams have to do with anything? It's like she wasn't on the ocean to, like, have the ocean speak to her. She was still in the river, so I don't understand that.
Yeah, I kept trying to connect the dreams with a literal occasion in the book or like somebody saying something to her. I think it was just like, oh, she's dreaming.
But it didn't
Pay
seem
attention.
to go anywhere. It didn't
No, it
mean
didn't.
anything. I think that could have been left out.
But a seagull is not a river animal, bird.
Okay.
So like a seagull is indicative of the ocean. And it was coming to her boat. That's really the only one I remember.
Okay.
They could have been more impactful. Like, I agree with you in that regard. But yeah, seagull is by the sea.
Okay.
So I guess that was maybe what we were supposed to pull from it. I didn't realize that until just now. But even like the pig man, I was like, why is he a pig? Well, he wasn't a pig. He carries pork and stuff around.
Yeah.
But he looks, don't they say that he looks like piggish or some
Yeah.
crap? Yeah. That was a little weird, but in a good way.
Yeah.
Again, all these obvious clues that like, seagull, not a river animal.
Well, see, I'm not an animal person, so I didn't know that.
It's in the name.
Well, that don't mean nothing to me.
Seagull! Anyway. Yeah, I was like, girl. But that doesn't necessarily, like, I didn't guess, oh, it's the sea. You're going to be the sea servant and not the river goddess, whatever. Yeah. What was your original comment about that? Oh, the dreams.
I just understand the point of the dreams.
Yeah. Well, hopefully.
That's all I'd say.
Okay. Let's talk, since we're talking about, like, the ocean and the sea and everything. I really, really loved this scene when she is taken off the ship. She, like, falls off the ship into the water below, and the dragon is there, and she meets the sea goddess. What was her name? Did she have a name?
Some with an A. Ariski? I don't know.
Oh, God.
You should never ask me the names of
Dawn is
anything.
horrible with the names, and I don't remember this one for some reason. And the book is all the way up there, so I'm not going to go grab it. Yeah, that was a really cool scene to me. Yes, I loved it. That was when I was like,
out of the story.
Bam! That's what I wanted. Yeah, just that whole conversation about, no, this is who you're supposed to be. It was just the final culmination of her development in this first book. I'm a Pisces, so anything that has to do with, like, water or oceans or sea things, fish, I'm all about it. Okay. That's why I like pirates. And I haven't read a good pirate book in a long time, so this one was kind of like, oh. But yeah, that whole scene was really cool to me. The dragon, like, trailing her ship and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, at that point I was just like, oh, here we go. So and because it's told in first person, she's not gonna die. Right. So when she's shot, I'm like, oh, here we go. What is happening?
Yeah, I did not think she was dying.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And then I felt like it was a little info dumpy because she explained about the brother and the sister, and I'm like, oh, here we go. I did like when she washed ashore. She was like, I need my shoe. And then her shoe followed her. I thought that was kind of cute. Yeah. But at that point, I think I was about done. That was the turn for me.
What was the turn? That scene was the turn for you?
That was one of the big turns for me, yeah.
What was another turn? Explain what you mean by the turn, just in case.
So the turn for me is I'm reading along, and then at a certain point in the book, I can tell if this book is going to be good or bad. That is the moment where I can tell what my rating is going to be. It's usually if the book is good. When the book is good and it's trucking along and then something big happens, I'm like, oh, this is what's going to determine the rating for me. And when she was shot, because when they rescue him out of the tower, there were still 50 pages left. I'm like, this book is not even close to being over. Mm-hmm. Something's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And they're all like, yay, we're happy and we're free. And I'm like, And so they're back on the boat, and then and like you said, the whole villain thing, I'm like, oh, this was lame. Like, he could have been better, the Shadow Man. And...
well, also, like, Derek Milanos, we don't even see him.
No.
So it's like this whole... we've been told to fear this guy throughout the entire book. This is who we've been running from. And we see him on his boat, and I didn't really get a sense of who he was.
No. And
then when they're in that tower thing, when the, like, sea is coming in and they're about to drown, you know, he, like, leaves them all in there. Okay, when have we not seen that?
Oh, clearly he's coming back in the next book, but maybe he'd be a better villain.
Let's hope.
Yeah.
That was a big complaint of mine. I didn't get a strong sense. You can't have a conflict in a novel without an antagonist, and I didn't like the presence of the antagonist. It wasn't strong enough. So I do agree in that whole scene in the end with the tower, when they came upon them. Well, so there's a part in the book when Marcos is believed to also be dead. She has to leave him because these pirates that they've been running from basically get what they want, and they get Marcos. And so then it's flipped, and then she's the one that, like, is thought to be dead. But yeah, that was a turning moment. I didn't dislike it, though. I did want more from the villains, but I loved that whole scene underwater. I thought that was really cool. And you're right, I was kind of like, there's still some significant pages here.
Mm-hmm.
So I did kind of breeze through, like, their romantic discussion at the end, so I had to go back and reread that. I'm like, what happened? I don't remember. I'm like, yeah, that could have been moved to the second book. But again, it's a debut.
Yeah, I mean, for debut.
Right. Good. I'm still pleased with this book.
I think the first turn was Kente. She just kind of appears, and I didn't like that at all.
Why?
Because she just seemed to be dumped in the book, and now she's a shadow man, and of course she helps them, and I'm like, she just conveniently appears. And yeah, there was some foreshadowing, she knew secrets and everything, whatever. I still felt like, I'm like, where the hell did this girl come from?
I didn't agree at all. I don't agree at all, because when, the reason that she's there is because Caro is basically forced to go, like, have this dinner with her family because she happens to land in a port that they own, that her family owns. And Kente is there. There's another cousin whose name starts with a J. I can't remember what her name is. Jackie, Jakarta? I don't know. But Kente is like, oh, I'm so bored. I want to get out of here. And I should have picked up on the fact that, like, she's probably going to try to come with. But Caro is so focused on trying to get out of the house so fast. And then Marcos shows up and has to be an idiot, which was funny. But, yeah, no, when she showed up on the boat, I was like, oh, yeah, cool. I kind of wanted that subconsciously. The Shadow Man aspect of her character, though, that was out of left field. I didn't really expect that family to have magical powers. Don't know why. Just didn't.
Well, yeah, the Ballards know.
Like,
yeah.
As a family, are they Shadow Men? Because well, that would make sense, because her dad is a river dude, and then she's supposed to be a river person.
Yeah.
But she's not.
She's a sea person. I don't know.
We will find out. Hopefully book 2 will give us some more information about that.
And I didn't like the little sister either. She got on my nerves.
Yeah, no, Daria I didn't care about. I don't like little kids, and especially when they're randomly thrown in books.
And I felt that they found her too quickly.
Yeah. I was expecting more struggle with the finding of the sister.
And they got to Castro really quickly, too.
Castro?
I don't know. Wherever she was at. I don't remember names.
Oh, the location. Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. I don't. Casteria?
Whatever.
Yeah.
Starts with a C.
Yeah. So the ending kind of made you ambivalent about the book?
I mean, it only dropped a quarter of a point.
Oh,
but,
okay.
I mean, because I would say 80% of the book was good,
yeah.
I was just like, okay, I'll give it a 4. And I will read book 2 because I'm interested to find out what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, this definitely did not ruin my interest in the series. There were some issues, for sure. This is not a flawless debut, but I really liked it. Like, there were a couple pirate books that came out last year that I had a lot of high hopes for, and they were also fantasy debuts, and they fell so flat. And so I, like you said earlier, I kept my expectations really low with this book because I was like, this could go anywhere. And when it started to go anywhere, I was like, ooh, this is kind of working out nicely. But yeah, I gave this book a solid 4. I ended up really liking it.
Right.
Yeah. Any other things you'd like to add?
I do not have any other things I would like to add.
All right. So again, if you would like to win a copy of the Gently Used Arc, go to the description box below and follow both my blog and Dawn's blog, and we will get that book out within a week.
Yeah.
By the time we get our next podcast up, we'll announce the winner in our next podcast.
Okay.
All right.
We'll catch you next time.
In the next one.